Giving honor to God who's the head of my life, to Apostle and to First Lady, to all, everyone in their respective places. I thank and I praise God for this opportunity. I'm going to try to be obedient to the instructions that I was given. 7 minutes. At one time I thought I shouldn't do it because you was in my message, so I figured I'd sit back, but I gotta get up here anyway. I was given the pleasure of having Naomi.
Ooh, that's a revelation all by itself.
I'm going to lift up one verse.
Okay.
Ruth 1 and 16.
Okay.
And Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from after thee. For whether thou goest, I will go, and whether thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God shall be my God. The word of the Lord is blessed. Amen. If I had to encourage you, if I had to give you a word that will help you from this day to the next, I will have to leave you and tell you to follow the leader.
Oh, my. Come on, well, work that out, sis.
So, Naomi, her name means my joy, yes, my bliss, or pleasantness of Jehovah. But she's also known as the woman that tasted bitterness. So you had both sides. Naomi was married to Elimelech, and they both was of the Hebrew race. Mm-hmm. We read about Naomi and her husband, and just like this family, it just seemed like this family went through pure hell at one point. Pure hell. Many would say the reason Naomi went through and experienced lack was because her husband didn't take care of the family. He didn't do his job. But as we know, within every family or marriage, it is a making, it's a development, it's a process that we all have to go through. See, it wasn't just the fact that his decision ended up having his family to suffer even the more, but it was his relationship and his disobedience that caused a major change in this woman's life. So what I found to be very amazing about Naomi was that she was very loving. She was kind, she was faithful, she was supportive, she was a wife, she was a friend, she was a sister, she was willing. But like any other woman, she hurt, she cried, she suffered. She went through a period where it seems or appears that she blamed God for everything, but she didn't understand why. And even in her misunderstanding, she remained faithful and she came to know God in a very deep way. Amen. Now, during this time of Naomi and her husband, it was during the rule of the judges when Israel suffered a serious famine, which was considered to be one of the many punishments, not the only one, but many, that came upon the people when they had sinned. You can find that in Leviticus 26. Her husband became very disappointed and was confused and made a bad decision to move his family to another land where there was food, and plenty of food. So they traveled from Judah, where they should have stayed, and settled in the highlands of Moab, where they had no business.
That's right.
For Naomi, it was hard for her because this was her homeland. She is now taken and uprooted from what she know. Now we have to say when somebody take us from our home, and that's all we know, it's hard for us. So this was considered a sacrifice, a real sacrifice for her. So she was sincere in her faith. She loved the people of God, and she was attached to the tradition of her race. She loved her race. So if you're from Jamaica, you love Jamaica. If you're from Russia, you love Russia. No one is going to change you. You love every tradition. If your grandmother did it one way, you're going to continue those traditions. So she loved that. So we see something about Naomi. She followed her husband wherever he went. And although her husband stepped out of the will of God by going to Moab, they had 2 sons and they took his entire family. But she still followed her husband even though he made a bad decision. Now, when you really look at Naomi, what do you see Naomi? You see Naomi as a student. Because she had to sit under everyone that was in her city, and even the governments, whoever was in high places. She had to sit and she had to learn and she had to apply and subject herself to the rules and the regulations. Right? From a student, she became a servant. You can't become a wife unless you learn how to serve. So she learned to serve her husband, and she didn't give him slack. She didn't give him mouth. She didn't raise up against him. She was a wife.
My God.
And she served not only her husband, but she served her sons and her sons' wives.
Yes.
Right.
Something that today women ain't doing. That's your look. You marry her, you take care of her. But what I found about Ruth and Naomi is that Ruth couldn't follow Naomi unless Naomi was following somebody. Had she followed anybody, Ruth would not follow her. But Ruth recognized that Naomi was following the leader.
Amen.
And although she had an earthly leader, her husband, when he messed up and when it was time for him to go, when God moved her husband, it placed her in a position to step into a leader's role. And that's how Ruth saw Naomi. In order for her to say, your God would be my God, she had to see God in Naomi.
Amen.
So if I was to tell you anything, even though we sit here and in Dominion is nothing but leaders, there really are no lay members in Dominion's headquarters. So when we come to the point where we are working together,
Yes.
we have to learn to subject ourselves to our co-leaders, our co-leadership, and we can work together, because we can't say that we are leaders and we are subject to God and I cannot respect you in your respectful place.
You better preach.
I can't do it. And God gets no glory. So if we're going to follow the leader,
Hey.
leaders, because they both are our leaders.
Amen.
If they fall out of place, can you still follow the leader? Can you still be obedient? Can you still do what God requires you to do so somebody else can see God in you and come and follow the leader? That is my word to you. May God bless you.